post-pandemic and plots. Now that's a lot more like it. Star Trek. Today on Trekland Tuesdays Live, with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming to you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Woof! I thought May was going to be a slow month, and look what's happening. There's so much going on in the world, I know, but we have this little moment here. We have an enclave, and we have something right now I feel like is bringing a lot of people a little smile, a little respite, a little reassurance to get through some crazy times. And a couple of things right off the bat. I hope you can join us next week, the 5th anniversary of Trekland Tuesdays Live. From such humble origins, a live reaction to an early Discovery trailer and an early Discovery's trailer reaction. That's the roots of Trekland Tuesdays Live, although it had been bubbling in my head for a while. So we're going to have a special show next week. Also, really quick, welcome once again to the home. And I will just say this very quickly. It's going to be Tour Central for the next year. It's coming to my homepage very soon. But for right now, know that you can go to Geek Nation Tours and get the one-day Valley of Fire Kirk Memorial Tour. If you are Vegas bound, the day before the Vegas Con on Wednesday the 24th. That's at geeknationtours.com. And then just come to my site if you are interested in the 2-day Great Bird Origins Tour, postponed from last year, 2 days. It's the weekend of August 20th and 21st. It's the end of Gene's centennial year, his 100th anniversary birthday. He was 100 last August 19th. We're ending the centennial year now without COVID for the most part. We are 2/3 of the way to making this. I only need 6 folks. I've got 4. There's more tours coming. I'll tell you about that at the end of the show. 4 of varying sizes and prices in the next 14 months. So suddenly tours have come back. And that's kind of where my topic is today. I realized, thinking about tours after last week, I mentioned that all of the Voyager high donor, the high perk donor last week, they had choices for several $1,000s as high donors to a project would do. They had choices of tour days, which were stops at some of the iconic sites that we've been going to for 10 years. Well, we've been going to them for ages. When friends would come visit in town, and it's been turned into a consultancy 10 years ago and a business 4 years ago. Thank you, pandemic, for slowing things down. But we're back. And I realized that last week, I never had 30 and 40 people going to Bronson Canyon and the Pier and some of the other sites that I was not leading hosting, where some of the actors were, Garrett and Tim and Sirach and dinners as well here in LA. So it was a big deal for people around the country and around the world who had helped support the Voyager documentary. To be able to fulfill that. And it was great for me to be able to donate my time to do that as part of my contribution. And then also meet a ton of new fans, a lot of fans who are East Coasters or who are foreign fans and I'd never met before. That was awesome. Some of them knew me, some of them didn't. So all the better. It was a great way to meet another slice of fandom and to share, some more information, see some smiles on faces. Even though the caves were blocked off because they'd been falling in a little bit. The cave, it's like a tunnel bored through a big hill. That's what Bronson Cave is. Yeah, it made me think, including one night when we were at a dinner and someone who did not previously know me, we were introducing around the table. And they leaned over at me down the line and finally said, "Oh, you're the tour guy." And I was like, "Oh, I'm the tour guy now. Okay, I'll take it. Yay, I'm the tour guy." As long as it's something about sharing fandom and sharing the background tapestry of Trek and again, lighting up some faces and making Star Trek real in a whole new way for folks. That's really big. We talk about experiences now that the millennials and the Gen Ys and the Gen Zs don't care about accumulating souvenirs, collector plates. It took Tom Paris to bring back collector plates, but that's why I couldn't even get my grandmother's collector's plates because it was her storied wall of plates. Anytime any one of us kids or grandkids went on a vacation, we always brought grandma back a plate from where we'd been. They're worth nothing, even at the vintage and the retro and the antique shops. They are zilcho because the whole collecting thing of those went out of style, partly because the same reason the millennials have killed Saturday morning cereal, or so they say. Maybe Tom Paris will bring it back. Who knows? But experiences are what modern generations are after, not so much stuff. So, stamp collecting and my railroading is down, and I'm sad. But going on trips, going on tours, digital photos are flat and they store easily. So that's been a thing. That was all starting to build up in our Star Trek realm until the pandemic kind of wiped it out. But this last week with the Voyager folks and seeing the excitement about some of the things that I was offering, even to the fact they had no idea that world existed, the concept of even, sure, go to Star Trek tours up in upstate New York at Thai. Yeah. Go see James's awesome, incredible thing. The sets are wonderful. They're licensed, so they're putting money into it. So some stability. That's incredible. But you can't license Vasquez Rocks or the Tillman Plant or Bronson Canyon or the Santa Monica Pier or 50 other places more obscure. You can't license those. So the outdoor location places are awesome. And coming out of the pandemic, people are feeling, they want to get out and do something. Anyway, it was wonderful to see people's awareness go, oh, this isn't just a perk for the documentary. This is something I could do more often. Oh, so yes, it was cool to be standing there as the guy, but it was great to see so many people who, after 5 and 10 years of trying to spread the word about this, had it, brought home in full bore. Oh, okay. So I think we made some, not just believers, but we made some awarers out of folks. Now that's more like it. That's more like it. We can get out and travel. I had another moment. For one, some of you that are watching every Tuesday know that I got my screener for the first 5 Strange New Worlds during Chicago. And did I sit down and watch it excitedly? No, because I'm not doing, written reviews. I'm not doing spoilerific reviews. I'm waiting till afterwards to talk about it. But would it have been helpful to have been up on things? Of course, but it's been a little crazed around here the last month. That said, oldest stepson and my other half, 5-year veteran of Voyager, went dark on Star Trek after her Voyager time, a little burned out from the real world side. But in the last month, now that she has basically retired and she's getting out on the stump with me again, we used to be a twofer act. All through the 90s, Janet and Larry were a twofer convention guest. And then she went back to home and work and whatever. And now the world has shifted. And she's sticking her nose out a little bit again, sticking her, up like the gopher again. But she felt the need to catch up. So she binge watched Discovery in about a week and a half, fast forwarding through the parts she thought were dumb or too violent or boring. She binged watched all of Enterprise in about a week. Same thing. And I could tell when she liked something because there was less fast forwarding going on. Didn't happen a whole lot with Enterprise. And it happened a little more as Discovery went on, a lot less with Picard season 1 and almost never during Picard season 2. And it kind of set the stage for, we've been seeing our oldest stepson, my oldest stepson, her oldest son again. And we last night basically caught up on Strange New Worlds with my screener. Cast it to the big TV. So no spoilers from me. I'm just going to report to you what my stepson said. Oldest son, and he's watched them week to week. He really appreciated seeing 3 in a row more. But basically, he said, Strange New Worlds, that's a hell of a lot more like it. May have been a little spicier too. But as he said that, my mind drifted back. Oh my God, exactly 40 years. Well, we're shy 2 months. 40 years ago, people saw the Wrath of Khan, and that was the lead on what the New York Times, the Newsweek, or Time Magazine review. I forget which. One of the major reviews of the country. The first line in the review for Wrath of Khan was, now that's more like it. Now, I'm going to stop right here and say the motion picture has tons of supporters and fans. The motion picture was pivotal. No matter what you thought of the movie, you cannot take away, and we've talked about this, you cannot take away the place it held in pop culture history, because never before had a dead little TV show come back as a major motion picture, much less resuscitated that franchise. But that was before we thought about franchises. And yeah, there was a Batman movie, and there was probably, I'm not talking about cheesy little TV movies that they made a buck. Battlestar Galactica originally was a 3-part. I'm not talking about cheesily made on a TV budget to be shown in a theater. I'm talking about big budget theatrical all the way. Nothing like that had ever happened before. You cannot take that away from motion picture. But having said that, And you sure can't take away, oh my God, the impression. Have you seen the 4K movie yet? It's coming to theaters this weekend. Please go see it if you haven't had a chance to see the 4K version. Even if you've seen it on your huge plasma at home, go see it in the theater. It's not the movie you remembered seeing in the theater or that you've watched on VHS and all the different iterations over the years. It's incredible, especially the ending scene. Not to raise the bar too high for you, but between the color retinting and the sharpening and some just, it's amazing. It's amazing what editing will do for pace and flow and narrative clarity. The last scene in the Voyager dish makes all the sense in the world now with power and drive and a drama. And most of all, overall, you see the color palette. It's the whole movie is not a blue-gray mush. That said, in 1982, that reviewer's reaction was what a lot of fans said. We all supported the motion picture. We all wanted it to do well. We'd all waited 10 years for it. We saw it multiple times. But for most fans, the Wrath of Khan was a lot more like it. And I could not help dwell on the irony of Nathan's comment. Strange New Worlds, that's a hell of a lot more like it. It felt like an echo. Not that I did not enjoy Discovery or Picard. And I'm not even going to talk about the animes because we're talking the live action sensation, the live action experience of Trek. And I love Lower Decks and I love Prodigy, as you all know. But just comparing live action apples to live action apples, we supported here, we encouraged, we pulled out that we critiqued what we didn't like. I have critiqued what I did not like. I have cheered on, and I think the world, according to trying to understand Star Trek in the modern storytelling age, serialized or not, has been a learning curve, and it's been an upward learning curve. But I think the reaction just, are the actors on Strange New Worlds, the writers, the directors, the crew people, are they all that much better than the actors, directors, writers, crew people, designers on Discovery and Picard? We just spent a short season, foaming at the mouth over what's been done with the Picard production design look. And Dave Blass, the production designer, is going to be our Portal 47 guest this month, next week, and I can't wait to have him back. Is it really that, or is it something as basic as just good old Star Trek episode of the week storytelling? Now, not reset button totally. One of the flaws of the original series, only the most basic of character arcs were pursued. Much improved, though, with Next Gen. We had Worf's commendation, that whole struggle. We had Data's increasing march toward getting his emotions chip and emotions. We had, go down the line, Riker and his battle with Command, Riker and his beard, Riker and Troy's long-term arc. I mean, all that Picard and Crusher's long-term arc. And there were long-term arcs, and then, of course, DS9 kind of sped that up. Voyager tried to do the same thing, but the longest term arc of all was getting home. So it's not like we were a stranger to this. And the original series was probably the purest at all about being a total reset. But then it was also the 60s, and that was the mindset. You didn't want to scare people away. If people started to watch you and had the feeling, oh no, I don't know what's going on in this show, I'll flip it to one of the other two channels or watch PBS or NET. So that's a paradigm structural shift too. But in modern TV, in cinematic TV, cinematic refers to the look and the feel and the visuals, not the story structure. Because otherwise you have a 10-hour movie, which is what people have been comparing some of these seasons to. 10 chapters in a book, 10 hours in a feature. Is it just as simple a thing as going back to standalone, non-serial episodic storytelling? Is that what it is? Now, I think if you're going to do that, that unhinges a lot of what you do with the characters and what you do with the environment. And I'm having to be very careful here because now I've watched 3 hours, 3, 4, and 5 last night, and I'm trying not to mix things up. And there's a different tone. What I will tell you is, and what you've probably read is, there is a different tone coming, just the same way the original series would pull off a different tone at times. And it's very welcome. And occasionally I will go, but most of the time, if I have an it's like, I'm going to wait and see what happens. Sometimes it's a visual. Sometimes it might be a conceptual story bit. But most all of them pay off in the end. Sure, there are things I would tweak here and there. But sure, I see things looming like the iceberg off the Titanic. But is that an iceberg, or is that a tourist trap that's a surprise on our itinerary that the Titanic people didn't tell you about? And you're going to get home safely after all. No, I think it's more of the latter. I think if you do see something that raises a red flag, it's going to be something they're playing with. Samuel Kirk, anyone? But now it's not just a gotcha. Now it can be, what are we going to do with this? It's almost like somebody was saying, texture, not trivia, but preemptively, up front. Not a mistake that has to be smoothed out, but something we're going to play with up front. And yeah, that's happened at times. You had an expectation. They could tease and promote some aspect, some name, some place, and then you go, and then it passes by in the night. And you might like what they did with it to tease you, or you don't like what happened. Or it sits there unused, and then 5 years later gets picked up again and run with. That's fine. That's the franchise. That's the universe. But I think from what we're seeing here, the reaction, I think there's an awful lot of people besides my oldest stepson saying, now that's a lot more like it. And as we kind of wallow in that joy and light, for the most part, and I realize there are valid critiques to be made. I've even seen little things tweaked from 1 to 5, which is kind of amazing. Yes, I heard somewhere along the way, I started hearing landing party used instead of away team, which I know it's a little thing, but if you're going to have centuries delineated by what things can and can't do, doesn't that apply to the language as well? So, I mean, if somebody on Strange New Worlds suddenly talks about quantum torpedoes, I would be a little upset. But for the most part, I think the world at large is saying, now that's a lot more like it. And it does. It reminds me a lot of what that said for Strange New Worlds versus its predecessors in varying shades, what it said for The Wrath of Khan versus the motion picture. Hell, even the animated series. And all the now we're much more aware of them, all the ideas for comebacks, the 2 movies, Phase 2, the series, everything about the 70s and the early 80s, and then what Wrath of Khan did, and then boom, we're off and running with a movie franchise comeback, and now it's time to have a TV franchise, and now it's just time to have a universal franchise, period. Finally. 2 series in a movie, and then takes a fallow time to bring us back full bore. And it also takes time to get that, as we said many times, to get the well-oiled machine machined up, much less well-oiled. And as I predicted to all the people upset with Discovery in the first year, eventually episodic TV was going to be this radical new concept in the era of Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. Not just the happy, optimistic, aspirational tone of Star Trek with representation. And yeah, geeky, cool new science, forward, future looking. All the ingredients. It's just going to take a while to get there, because the mindset of TV right now was a huge thing to change. Gene did get his series sold in the mid-60s, but it was a huge battleship to turn, and they were fighting every week. At least now the Star Trek brand is known, but it's been still a huge battleship to turn. And I think a lot of people knew that. I think a lot of people on the payroll at CBS/Paramount now knew that. It takes a while, as it always does, for sometimes those voices to rise to the top, or for the pendulum swing to prove people right, or at least for the pendulum swing to be on their side. Because I got to dig this out. Somewhere online live or in a podcast, I said a few months after Discovery's premiere, hold on, folks, 5 or 6 shows in, suddenly standalone stories will be a radical new concept and fresh. And if you think about Discovery, I said 5 or 6 series, Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy. Well, Section 31 was mentioned, and then here comes Strange New Worlds. So yeah, about 5 or 6 shows in. I'll take that one, sure. But I'll mostly take the fact that I'm watching a fandom mostly pretty now. I can't wait to see what everybody's comments are about this. And everybody, if you have a critique, sure. If you see something troubling you already, sure. A lot of people were going, I don't know, T'Pring, they're in the pilot. Yeah, Kirk. Oh, okay, Kirk. We'll see. We will see what happens. Mbinga instead of where's Boyce? Where's Piper? Much less McCoy. We've talked about that one too. I'm thrilled to see what happens with that. I think you're going to be thrilled to see at least these next 2 episodes in a row. I can't wait to see what's going on. They're hard at it right now, working on their season 2. They're about to wrap up, or they're midway or wrapping up. I actually heard something about a bit somewhere. So let's see what you think. But it is. We survived. We have survived the restart of a franchise. We have survived a 2-year pandemic. I don't want to say everything is rosy out there. We've still got a lot of shit in the world to deal with. Coming up with elections coming up in a few weeks. I hope you're registered, and I hope you're voting the Star Trek way, whatever you feel like is going to get us closer to the Star Trek future. And you know what? Here's the place where I am totally willing to break canon. I would be totally happy to avoid World War III if we can do it. If we have to put off meeting the Vulcans and having warp drive a few years to avoid World War III, I can deal with it. I can live with it. I can live with it. Otherwise, I think we're in a good place. If nothing else, we have a respite once again to put our faith and stock in about humanity, whatever is out there, as we get through these troubled times we're in. So if nothing else, and the Fox web story is laughable. I don't know how much of fandom's eye rolling permeated back out to the mainstream media. I don't know where some of the reaction stories, some of the essay type online magazines like Medium or The Atlantic or whatever, that level of journalism might be as mainstream as it gets. I don't know if, forget Fox, I don't know if NBC, CBS, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, LA Times, if anyone's going to get a mainstream reaction to that story. Star Trek has always been woke. Star Trek's always been political. When you talk about Vietnam in 1967, when no one else was talking about Vietnam, how do we miss that? It's funny. I was reading a story about this very thing, and the intro to the piece about the mention of Private Little War was, well, most people today think about it's Kirk kissing a witch woman, and I'm like, no, really? I think of Private Little War as the Vietnam show, and the only one with a tired, serious, not happy Flintstones laughing ending to it. But that's just me. I know the generations are flying by. That said, yeah, the Trek we have now is, hopefully it's doing a lot for spirits and for reserve, for helping people get through these days. As we get out of the pandemic, as we deal with the changes that it wrought, like inflation, we've got a war across the way that's insane and affecting all of us, even economically. That's a lot more like it. That is a lot more like it. That's a hell of a lot more like it. So here's to our new Captain Pike and the stalwart crew of the Enterprise. And who cares if Ortegas has a shaved head? She's an awful damn good pilot to join the legions of great pilots. Crazy things, gang. So what did you think? What do you think? Are you excited? Are you feeling better about getting out? Are you feeling better about doing something crazy like a tour? Have you ever thought about it? Are you most of all excited for where Strange New Worlds is going? Do you still have a critique or a concern? Let's see what everybody's going to say in the chat. I hope where you are, things are fine. I hope you've got good weather, good stuff. We'll have people from around the world here in just a second. But again, real quick, if you're leaving us now because you're just watching on YouTube later, quick mention again, the Valley of Fire Kirk Memorial Tour, the day before Vegas Trek in Vegas, Wednesday, August 24th. It's a one-day tour, 8 hours. You'll be back in time for Con Eve and the landing party. Don't worry. That's geeknationtours.com. You can find that. And my 2-day tour, the Great Birds Origin Tour, Life Places of Gene around town. And yes, that will include Desilu / Paramount. A different kind of tour. That's August 20th to 21st. You can find that at LarryNemecek.com. But right now, as I do every week, I really want to do a shout out here to, of course, our Patreon folks, our TTLers, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Keith Rombach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. And yes, our live wires, Rusty, I'm tongue-tied. Your coolness astounds me, Rusty. Rusty Harrell, Halbert Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hohense, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, Gay Clevin, Lundstrom, and Casey Shafsky. There we go. If you would like to help me out just a little bit, it's very simple. It's not a lot. I just have a $5 and a $10 a month Patreon level. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Once again, the Trek Files is back with a new guest this week, Carrie O'Quinn. We're talking about the birth of Starlog magazine and a letter to Gene Roddenberry. We've got Carrie to talk about it and the history of Starlog. This week on the Trek Files, it's a special one. You don't want to miss that. Carrie O'Quinn, the longtime, speaking of inspiring pieces, would write his From the Bridge opening editor's column every issue of the first 100 or so Starlogs. Yeah, go check it out. And of course, our documents there at Facebook on the Trek Files page or podcast.roddenberry. Other than that, gang, you can find me all over at Larry Nemecek on Twitter, Larry Nemecek's Trekland on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. And Instagram too, everywhere you're watching us right now, basically. Portal47.net is your minicon all year long. Like I said, our guest this month, we just had Kirk Thatcher, Punk on a Bus, and so much more. You may have seen some of the comments even out on my Trekland regular page, Facebook. Next week, Dave Blass will be a blast, and I can't wait for that. But if you are leaving us right now, please stay healthy, do all the things. Virus is out there. Stay woke, check your sources. The wackos are still out there. But most of all, trek well, y'all.